Welcome to Ty and That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham, and this is my good pal, Timothy Franck.
How you doing, man?
How you doing, buddy? Today we're going to do an episode called Assured Destruction. Sounds like a heavy metal band. I'm sure you came up with this title, right, Ty?
No, well, I mean, it's obviously it's a shortening of Mutually Assured Destruction.
Right.
It has a lot to do with the episode.
Why didn't you name it Mutually Assured Destruction?
Because Assured Destruction is cooler because it sounds like there's nothing you could do to stop it from happening.
But isn't Mutually Assured Destruction more to the point and on theme with what's going on? Because Assured Destruction doesn't indicate that there's something else that's going to be destroyed. Like Mutually Assured Destruction is you're both going to destroy each other.
So here's what you should do, Wes. You should call up Nguyen. You got his phone number. And tell him you hate his titles. That his titles suck.
You know what? I'm going to call him on speaker. I mean, fuck it. We already finished the last season. I don't need
Yeah, I mean, what's he going to do? Fire you?
No. Lorraine, you're on Ty and That Guy right now. Me and Ty are doing the podcast, and we were having a debate over Assured Destruction.
Yeah.
And I was saying what a wonderful title it was. And Ty was totally like, he was saying it's Mutually Assured Destruction. What? And I was like, well, you don't have to put Mutually Assured Destruction without knowing that it's Assured Destruction. And
none of what Wes is saying right now is actually true. He was grilling me on why you picked Assured Destruction, not Mutually Assured Destruction.
He's talking right now, and he's saying, confirming what I'm telling you. So, can you tell us why you chose Assured, or Ty? I'm with you on this, but why you chose Assured Destruction for the title of this episode?
Mission was intentional. I mean, yes, we're talking about Mutually Assured Destruction as a doctrine. You know, sort of in the Cold War sense of it. But the episode is actually, it's more like a preemptive strike, right? He's basically talking about it in the sense that we have to do this now to cripple their capability to destroy us. Mutual assured destruction is a balance of power doctrine. It basically states that you've got your weapons, they've got their weapons. That actually is not what this is. What this is striking first to destroy their capability to destroy you. That means you can take them down. So it's not really. So that's why the mutually is out of it.
Oh, this is excellent. This is actually something we'll share on air. Thank you for that. So Ty, are you happy now? So it turns out a good friend of mine is really good friends with the scientist or the astrophysicist that you almost had his voiceover in the trailer.
Carl Sagan?
Carl Sagan. Okay. So I found out like a good buddy of mine, he went to he grew up in Ithaca, and one of his best friends was best friends with Carl Sagan's daughter. And they would go over to Carl Sagan's house every Sunday afternoon to watch The Simpsons. And as soon as he told me that, I was like, I have to call Nguyen, because number one, all of us have obvious respect for him on the show, and Nguyen has always been, a big fan of his. But the fact that he loves The Simpsons, it's like the smartest and great. And I guess he's good friends with the creator of the show.
He's dead, Wes.
Oh, no kidding. It's great.
Oh, I guess he was good friends, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was a really. I could not wait to call and tell you that.
That's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah, and I go, are you kidding me? Is he a fan of The Simpsons? He goes, oh, he loved The Simpsons. He'd have us over, and every time he would have us over, it was like a ritual. He would cook lentil soup, and they would watch The Simpsons.
Show's got such a great tradition of buying into the episode where they do the smart people take over Springfield, and they try to run, and they turn it they make time in like his metric time, and it's got like and they fuck up everything. And at the end, Stephen Hawking comes down and he says, "You turned utopia into a fruitopia," and Homer goes, "Larry Flint is right."
Hey, you know what we got to do? We're starting to branch off and do other crazy episodes. Yeah. What we need to do is like a full-on Simpsons retrospective, and then we go back and we talk about our favorite Simpsons episodes. That'd be fun.
We could actually go through every episode that had a Simpsons Easter egg in it, because there's many. There's many.
Oh,
many.
We definitely have to do that. But well, look, man, I appreciate it. I think it was fun to call you live on the show and do it. We have like almost 5 fans now that listen to this. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, well, we're getting there.
Well, now you have like 4.
Yeah. Yeah, because the fifth one is talking on the phone with us now. So he actually. But all right, everybody, this is Narain Shankar, fearless leader and showrunner, and thank you for taking the time for us. And Ty, are you happy now? I'm a big fan of your titles. Ty, as always. Anyway, all right, we'll talk soon, buddy.
Hillary Clinton is right.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
I actually am happy, and you know why I'm happy?
Why?
Because all 5 people who listen to us just heard you bitch out. Like you're just a punk. You had your chance to confront him, let him know, and at the last minute you blinked. You just turned into a sniveling little catamite.
Catamite. Hold on. I thought it would have been funnier with a twist. I thought it would be funnier that I call him and then put you in the antagonist seat. And you can't talk to defend yourself. So am I a catamite or am I just clever?
No, just punk. You're a punk. You punked out at the last minute.
True.
You had your shot.
Who wrote and directed this episode?
Wes, you're not a punk, but you did say that lentil soup was yentl soup, which
he did.
I'll be saying for the rest of my life.
Lentil soup.
And I said, I was trying to say retrospective, and then I said something completely off.
Wasn't as good as yentl soup.
Yentl soup was very funny.
If it was, I did that intentionally, Ty or Clint. That was a joke. By the way, to our 4 listeners, somebody got a haircut. Clint, do you want to come on and show everybody what you got a new haircut and what it looks like? And then look at it. Whoa! What do you guys think about it? I think it looks really good.
High and tight.
Yeah, high and tight. All right, who wrote and directed this, Ty?
This one was Dan Nowak, who writes a couple every year. After episode 13 of last season, we had Thor come back and do a whole block. So this is Thor. This is his block in this season. And
Thor is an incredibly talented director, but he looks the exact opposite of his name.
Yes. He is not a towering Nordic god.
He is not a towering Nordic god. Okay, so we pick up. Avasarala is now on the Rocinante, and so is Bobby Draper. Avasarala survived, thank God. I didn't know if that was going to happen or not. My first question is, do we think Draper could be a little bit more thankful for being saved out in the middle of space and not just coming in and criticizing our ship and what's going on it?
Well, yes, but at the same time, her nation is in the middle of a war with the people who are crewing the ship she's on, and the ship she's on is a stolen ship from her nation. So, like, if you, in the Navy, if you had gotten rescued by a bunch of Somali pirates that were driving a stolen U.S. destroyer, you'd probably be a little uptight.
I don't know. If I was, like, floating out at sea and on death's door, and the U.S. ship was trying to kill me, and Somali pirates picked me up in a destroyer, I might just be like, hey, man, thanks a lot, guys. I fucking fuck those guys. I am so thankful.
Well, you don't have that Marine indoctrination.
You're right, I don't.
You're just a Navy guy. Navy guys don't care.
Careful. Oh, also, this is an interesting detail. So when Amos was caught by Alex for the first time modifying the Martian flag, that was in the airlock, right?
Yeah.
Then she is now in the armory room, and she sees the flag there. Does that mean that Amos went and modified every flag on the ship?
That was sort of the gag that Amos just went around the ship repainting all of the flags.
Because, the story was when we first catch him modifying the flag, he was in the airlock, and we thought he was doing that because he was timing with Alex come and try to provoke him into a fight. But I guess he literally went around the ship and modified every flag on the ship, which I think is great.
So when Alex confronts Amos and goes, do you think that's funny? And Amos says yes. He's not lying there. He actually does think it's funny.
Right.
Like he went around and repainted all the flags because he thinks it's funny.
Right. It is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think the first argument they had, Amos is creeping up behind her. And it's a moment that gets passed over really fast. But they have tension, and Amos is like, okay, I guess this is how this is going to go down. And he creeps around her with a wrench as big as his leg, and he's winding up as he's going, and then it gets interrupted, and they just move on, not just forgetting the fact that Amos almost cracked her in the back of the head with a wrench. But it's a great, moment between them and their characters, and also foreshadowing some special stuff that happens in season 6.
Yeah.
And I heard you guys have this fantastic writer. Anyway, now I kind of like where Holden's character is now compared to where he was in season 1 and season 2. The whole Don Quixote thing, that thing that we've hammered. But now he's like, you know what? Fuck this shit. Like, we're going to go to Io. We're going to Io. And Naomi's, talking about, you know what? Take the Razorback and go to Io. Avasarala, you're free to go. You're free to go. We're going to Io. All right, we're doing this. I'm not going to get caught up in all this stuff. And even Avasarala tries to use, look, I met your mother, and she said you wanted to be a knight. I mean, and he's like, that I was a boy, and that's, and she even ends up coming clean and telling him the thing about Aaron Wright and what's happening. He's like, we're going to Io. Needless to say that the big confrontation is going to go down there, but I do like this swing in his arc and where he is at this episode. It's so different than what he was in the first 3.
Yeah, he's trying to find himself again. And, we talk about that when Naomi comes on board after he shoots down the missile that's going to blow up the somnambulist and saves the people that are on the ship. And she comes on board and they have their reunion, and he says, I need to be able to find myself when this is all over with. This is him trying to get back to who he was. So he was, Captain Ahab in season 2. He was obsessed with the protomolecule. He was clearly suffering with a lot of PTSD from his experiences on Arrows. And this is him trying to get back to the person he used to be. And the person he used to be is the person who would care deeply about one guy's, right? And he's trying to get back to that. And they're trying to pull, you need to be a hero. You need to fight in a war. You need to do all these big dramatic things. He's like, no, I need to save one kid. And that's who he used to be. And he's trying to find his way back there. And honestly, that's the version of Holden I like. The one who's like, I'm going to save one person. And then we'll see what happens after that.
Does that mean you didn't like all the other versions of Holden?
Well, I'm not a person who gets sucked up into big causes.
Right.
And so the whole Captain Ahab, I must save the universe. I must destroy my enemy. That whole thing, like, it's a position that I can write, but it's not a position that I empathize with.
Right. So we get a little window into a couple of backstories. Alex's backstory. Side note, where did Alex get a lollipop? Why has he got a lollipop? Do we have lollipops on the Rocinante? And where are they? And why doesn't everybody else get a lollipop every now and then? Like, we have one lollipop in 1.5 scene, and the whole history of the Rocinante's existence, and I guess nobody else gets lollipops, or did he just happen to find that lollipop? Like, was it left over sometime?
No, he went to the doctor, and when you go to the doctor, you get a lollipop.
He got his COVID vaccination. Yeah, that's where he got his lollipop. We still got COVID in 21, 22. Whatever.
I think it's very clear that Alex has hidden a box of snacks in his cabin with like lollipops and other stuff in there that he doesn't share with anyone else on the crew. I mean, that's pretty obvious. That's what's going on.
And Amos has got a couple windows to his backstory. One, Prax asks him how he gets out of Baltimore. And he says, the only way to get out of Baltimore is you got to die. He said, well, how'd you get out? And he says, I died. And that's starting to plant the seeds and lay the framework that we'll get into later in season 5 when we end up going back to Baltimore. Also, something that was interesting is he's helping Avasarala with mag boots. And he's like, it's just like wearing pumps. And she's like, how do you know about wearing pumps? He's like, I didn't always work in space. Now, what I think's interesting about this is, like, I picture Amos like serving drinks somewhere at some brothel unenthusiastically, just wearing like a cocktail dress with pumps and just pissed off, was just storming through while people are slapping his ass and going through. But that's the visual I had.
So talking about inside baseball, that's one of those lines that I don't remember who said it, but it was in the writer's room. We were all, we were talking through the idea of the episode. I think Dan already was outlining at that point. We were talking about the scene where he shows Avasarala how to walk in mag boots, and he's talking about the pumps thing. And I don't remember, but somebody in the room just said, well, he didn't always work in space. And everybody laughed their ass off for like 2 minutes, and then it goes into the script. So I don't remember who said it, but that was one of those moments where somebody was just like making an offhand joke, and everybody's like, all right, that's in the script. That's
hilarious that got into the script. So Naomi and Avasarala have a great scene. and it's a really nice showdown where they're both reading each other. And, you know, as smart as Naomi is, she's not as seasoned as a politician as Avasarala is. So they're kind of reading each other and seeing down the road. And Naomi's basically like, look, I know that you're staying on board, and I know that you are doing everything you can to get Earth, make sure Earth has a protomolecule, because you know Mars has it, and now you know the belt has it. And she's like, and Avasarala looks at her and is like, you're right. We're not going to be friends because you know exactly why I'm here and what I'm doing. And I'm not going to deny it, but this is what's happening, and this is where we're going. And it was a great scene between the both of them.
Well, Avasarala's, her entire job is reading people. She plays poker for a living, right?
Yeah.
As a politician.
Right.
So she takes one look at Naomi and she's like, I know exactly who you are. I know exactly what you are. You and I are never going to be friends. Yeah. Just immediately sees through it. And it goes the other direction too. I mean, growing up in the belt, that you're like, it would be like somebody, in Poland meeting Hitler. Hitler's like, I don't think we're going to be friends. And the Polish guy's like, yeah, you're right. For her, meeting Avasarala is like meeting like the leader of the country that has oppressed you your entire life. So yeah, there's no chance the two of them are going to hang out.
Right. And then we're in the war room on Earth. And I think we should rename this room where Aaron Wright wants to blow up Mars and somebody's trying to talk him out of it, because almost every war room scene, he's trying to have an angle on blowing something up, and somebody's like, whoa, calm the fuck down, dude. So they figured out a way to get through Martian stealth, and explain this to me. So ultimately, if they can figure the position of 2 of Mars's gunships, then they can figure out the other 3.
Yeah, I mean, at least they know where to look.
Right, because they have a system in how they're set up.
Yeah.
And so if they can identify the location of 2, then they can coordinate and figure out where the other ships are.
Yeah, the idea behind this is sort of during the Cold War, the Soviet and American ballistic missile subs were always trying to go find a place to hide, because the idea was if war breaks out, the other side won't know where all your ballistic subs are, and so they know for a fact that those subs will be able to get missile launches off and just destroy your country, right? So the ballistic missile sub, its only job was to hide, to go somewhere where no other submarine could find it. And then at the same time, the Soviets and Americans had what they called hunter-killer subs, whose only job was to track the ballistic missile subs of the other side, right? So, you watch like Hunt for Red October and movies like that, the ballistic missile subs trying to hide, the hunter subs trying to find it. And the idea is if nuclear war is declared, the attack subs of one side tries to destroy all of the ballistic missile subs of the other side so that they never get to launch their missiles. And this idea of these orbital stealth platforms, are not orbital, but these stealth platforms is sort of like the ballistic missile submarines, right?
Yeah.
It's quiet. They put them out in places where people aren't likely to look. They're very quiet. They're coated with, radar absorbing stealth composites, that kind of stuff. So if you don't know where to look for them, they're hard to find. That's the idea, is if Earth ever declares war on Mars, Mars can immediately launch 5 ships worth of planet buster missiles at Earth, and it's part of the mutually assured destruction thing.
And the Secretary of General is a really weak-minded leader, and he's so easily influenced, and he kind of bounces back and forth, where when Aaron Wright's influencing him, he's on board with starting the attack, and then he talks to Anna, and then he's like, well, maybe, and so he kind of wavers back and forth. And there's a point where they're getting ready to attack, but they were only at an 87% certainty, and he said, well, then we're not going to do it, so they draw it back. Then they end up making the attack, but because he powered down and they powered back up to do the attack, then there was an issue with the railguns, and they weren't, and a Martian missile got through and basically blew up South America, killed 2 million people.
Yeah.
And so now that is on his shoulders. But explain to me the scene when Aaron Wright goes and speaks with Anna. Basically, he was putting those 2 million deaths on her shoulders and putting that guilt. So basically, you need to back the fuck off, because what you're playing with is killing a lot of people.
Yeah, that is what he's saying. He's basically telling her, look, we play with live ammo at this level. You can't come in here with your wishy-washy morality, mess with the Secretary General's head, and not have consequences come out of it, is his position. Yeah, I mean, and in that situation, he's not wrong. Now, the things he wants, his goals are wrong, but he's not wrong that when you're at that level of responsibility, when you're at that level of of weight on your shoulders, somebody coming in and just messing with your head is going to cause problems.
Yeah.
Like I think Aaron Wright is actually, I mean, like look at how much backlash there was when it was discovered that like Reagan had a astrologer, right? That like people going, so some lady who thinks she can read the stars is going to be advising the president. Like what decisions might he make because of that?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. That's what Aaron Wright's saying to Anna, like take your Bible out of here. The Bible has no place in here. This is a place for politics and serious decisions.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Reagan, I mean, that was a time when the conservative party in particular kind of really got caught up with the subculture of Christianity in the United States at that time and kind of really wrapped themselves in it. And so it really got to a point with politicians in the 80s and the 90s all the way up where it was almost like a Christian off, like who's more Christian between two politicians. Yeah. And if you weren't, then, good luck getting elected. So everybody kind of pushed for that. Well, as I'm looking into the Expanse future and I'm seeing that they're still playing those games because the Secretary General wants Anna to basically put God's stamp of approval on this speech and the plans and how we can do that. Now, my question is, do you think that it's still going to be that game at that point? Because we're already kind of seeing a decline in religion in politics.
I don't think at any point the Secretary General wants Anna to add a layer of Christianity or God to what he's doing. I don't think that's what he's asking her to do. I think she is a religious person. I think she is a pastor. But her speech, if you listen to the speech that she writes for him later, it has no mention of religion or God in it. I think she's just a really good speechwriter who also happens to be a religious person. And I think it's revealed in these scenes that the Secretary General is a religious man. And he likes that this religious person works with him. But I don't think he's asking her to put any of that into the speeches. Because he never mentions God in his speech.
It's really about her talent as a speechwriter more than anything?
Yeah. Well, they worked together back when he was a up-and-coming politician. She wrote the famous speech that got him elected. Yes, she's talented, but I think there are a lot of people who are talented. I think more than anything else, she's a security blanket for him. Like, he wants her there because when she's around, he's lucky. When she's around, he gets elected, right? I think that more than anything else, that's what he wants.
Right. But she also advises him. He listens to her.
Yeah,
so
he does.
Yeah.
When they were coming up together, obviously she has a doctor of divinity. She's a religious person. She went to university to study religious studies. But she's also an educated person. She's a very intelligent person. Clearly, she's a good writer, all of those things. And I think when they were coming up together, he respected her a great deal. He respected her opinion a great deal. They had a falling out and went their separate ways. But I think he remembers those days fondly. And he's in an incredible amount of pressure. He feels like he's drowning in this pressure, and he's remembering a time when he felt better about himself, when he felt like his mission was clear, and she's a big part of that. So he wants to bring her in. It's sort of like, those guys who are in their 40s, and they get divorced, and they remember the only time they were happy was when they were in high school, and so they start trying to reconnect with all their high school buddies, and they look up their high school girlfriend, and it's just you're trying to reconnect with the past because you remember the past as being a happy time.
Right. It's kind of like when you're writing and you're hitting a wall or you're having writer's block, you end up calling me and asking my advice because I'm your muse in a lot of ways.
Well, you're the only thing I can remember ever being happy with.
You complete me.
Right. So, I have to reach out. Yeah. I do want to talk about another thing in that scene though, because I've been asked this a number of times. And you and I have talked about the fact that there's this tension in filmmaking, right? Always. There's the writer's intent, there's the producer's intent, there's the director's intent, and there's the actor's intent. And there's always a tension there, right? Like the director might tell you to do something, and you don't think that's right, so you'll push back. You'll be like, no, actually, I think I should play the scene differently. Or I'm talking to a director, I'm going, here's the intent of the scene. The tone meeting is a meeting we have in television where we sit with the director, we go through the script, and we tell him the intent of every scene. Him or her, sorry. But the director might have their own ideas, their own intents, and they might push back. Well, I want to do it this way. And that's always true, and that's always part of the process. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Everybody should get some input into the process. So the scene where they're launching the railgun shots to destroy the orbital platforms is one of those scenes. It is written that there is a big time jump between each shot, because those railguns those platforms are at very different places in the solar system. all the railgun shots travel at the same speed. So, and you want the platforms to all get hit at exactly the same time, which means you have to fire a shot, then wait like 10 minutes, then fire the second shot, then wait like 15 minutes, then fire the shots. That's what's supposed to be happening there, so that the bullets all hit at exactly the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that was explained to the director. But the director had this idea of how he wanted to shoot that scene, the way he wanted to, the camera move that he wanted to do, the way he wanted to film it. And so when we said we should film it so that it feels like there is a big time gap between each shot, he just decided not to do that because he didn't like the way that would look. He wanted this other thing. He wanted to shoot it this other way. So he just shot it the way he wanted to shoot it. And unfortunately, that means by the time you get it into the editing room, there's no way to cut it the way we wanted to cut it, which is have a shot that have the room change enough that it feels like a bunch of time has passed before the second shot is fired. There was no way to do that because he just didn't shoot it that way. A lot of people said, well, that scene doesn't make any sense because why are the bullets all arriving at the same time when the distances are so different? Those people are correct. The way it is shot doesn't make any sense. But that's just that tension between writer and director.
Now, when a director does that, is there that Lethal Weapon scene where the police chief is like, Riggs, get in here, and they get in there, and then they get cussed out, and they're like, the station's got to pay for this shit. Cars are blown up, buildings that are. What are you doing? Is there that moment or no?
No. Nobody gets yelled at.
Riggs
you might
and
have
Murdoch.
a conversation, but the reality is, by the time you see the way they've shot it, that's what we call dailies.
Yeah,
it's too late. It's the next day. So, and we're not going to go back and reshoot that scene probably. Right. So you're just like, well, I guess we'll figure out a way to make this.
So you're
work.
like, I'm going to pout all day when I'm on set tomorrow.
Now, for you aspiring directors out there who are listening to me say this in TV, no, we're not going to yell at you, and you're probably not going to get fired for that.
We'll never hire you again.
But you're not coming back. And I'm not talking about Thor here. I'm not bashing Thor.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in general. If you consistently don't do what the writers and producers of the show want you to do, if it's a consistent thing, I'm not talking about like one scene like this was with the railguns. I'm talking about like over and over and over again, you don't do what they want. They're not going to bring you back again.
No.
And if you look on IMDb, there are a lot of directors out there who do one episode of like 20 different TV shows. I can pretty much guarantee you what it's like working with that director.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The only reason Brett comes back is because you always forget how mad you are at him, and then you feel sorry for him, and then he comes back. But then next time, that's the only reason old Brett gets brought back. But other than that, so Jules Pierre Mao is on IO, and I think this is Jules Pierre Mao's most interesting episode. Francois does a really great job. You know, you really get a sense of somebody that got so swept up in his pursuit of power and pursuit of money and pursuit of that he had lost touch with his humanity, and that the real source of his humanity was his love for his daughters, but he even lost touch with that. And so now he's in the seeing these kids playing, and it's an awakening something in him. And he says to Strickland, at least it's good that the kids get to play and they get to do that. And Strickland, what is Strickland, Ty? Cold-blooded. So you got Strickland, who's like, yeah, it's great. It keeps the cortisols down, and then we're able to put in more protomolecule, and then you see Mal be like, this motherfucker is like, I do some shit, but this guy is like a straight up sociopath, and he's doing this with kids, and he just so happens to run into May on his walk, and he runs into May, and May got out there, and she says, do you have kids? And he says, yeah, I do. I got kids, and we know who those kids are, and we know what they're going through. And you see the regret and the hurt, and he's trying to suppress it, but this has awakened something in him, and it puts him through a thing, and he ends up seeing the kid. What's the kid that's infected by the protomolecule?
Yeah. Wow. See, when somebody asks me...
So you get to see Wow. And now Wow is
somebody asked me a name, I guarantee I'm going to forget that name.
So the kid that ends up is the first one that's actually infected, and they're monitoring him, and then they're doing one kid at a time. That's how you know May doesn't have the protomolecule infection yet. But he sees this kid break into these seizures, and he has that awakening. Quick side note, I was going to give you a hard time because last episode the kid's like, hey, you want to see something cool? And you lift up a shirt and you see the protomolecule there, and I was like, we don't get no playing around with power, like, you know, like when he's turning into a fly, you get the fun and games moment where they do all that, or Superman when he's racing the train, like when they're discovering this power and then they realize it's going to go to, well, not Superman, but the fly. But then we get it this one. He's running up walls and shit and jumping, and I was like, oh, that's good. That's cool. It's kind of like a superhero origin story. So Jules Pierre Mouse sees him have the seizure, and he's been shaken by seeing these kids, reminding of his daughters, and he really just has a realization of, what have I done? How far have I gone? And am I really willing to experiment on these children and do this to them? And then he says, shut it down. And Strickland does not want to shut it down. And he says, this isn't a debate. Shut it the fuck down.
Yeah.
It's a great moment for Jules Pierre Mao because it humanizes him in a way that we haven't seen yet. And it really shows the love that he has for his daughters, and that he's not a monster, that he just got swept up in this thing, and he got lost for a little bit.
I think the key to understanding Jules Pierre Mao's character, and we always write for this, is he honestly does believe he is saving the human race. If he fails at what he's trying to do, the entire human race will die. Mm-hmm. He honestly believes that's true. And if you put that kind of weight on yourself, there's almost no line you would draw in the sand. There's almost nothing you wouldn't do if you honestly believe that's true, if you honestly believe you're saving the entire species. And that's where he's at. So he keeps being presented with these moral choices, these moral quandaries, and in every choice, he's saying, if I do this, I may save the entire human race, and if I do this other thing, the entire human race may die. That's always the stakes of every choice he's making in his head.
Speaking of moral choices, Courtyard has quite a moral choice where he has to strangle poor Theo to death because he knows in that moment that Theo is not going to be able to keep his story together, and he's going to put Avasarala at risk. And so he really has to think fast, and he's like, what is his choice? He's got to kill him, and he strangles him, and that's it's kind of a heartbreaking scene because you get to know Theo, and you gave him a shout out earlier a couple episodes ago about how great he is and you know what he's done, but you really come to like him in a really short amount of time, and you're like, wait, what the fuck you doing? You killing Theo? And he's like choking him out, and he's saying sorry time, and you totally understand that. What would you do in that situation? Would you kill Theo?
I think in that situation I'd probably be Theo. You and I would be on the ship, and you'd be like, "Sorry, Ty, you're not going to hold up to questioning. You're going to crack."
But why didn't he?
I got to choke you out.
But why didn't he space him? Oh, because they probably don't have an airlock on the little dinghy.
There's no airlock on that little ship. Yeah,
like it'd be a lot easier to space. I'd be like, Ty, come here, I take it, and then push it in and fucking space you real quick, because then it's over with. But to sit there and choke my buddy Ty to death, that'd be kind of hard. That'd bother me for a couple of days.
Honestly, if you're being choked like that, I bet you would pass out about as quickly being thrown out the airlock as you would being choked. I bet the timing is not that different, because in both cases, you're just cutting off oxygen to the brain.
Yeah, but
so in both cases, it take about 15 seconds.
But in one case, you're pushing a button and it's done. And the other case, you're sitting there like feeling.
So it's not about the experience for the person being killed.
No. It's about the killer.
It's about saving you.
Yeah, because you're sitting there while they're struggling in your arms. I mean, that's like you know. And then if you push the thing and they get sucked out of the airlock, you probably won't have trouble sleeping. But if you're choking them and choking them to death, and then they're wiggling in your arms, it's gonna affect you.
It would be hard to do that to somebody you didn't hate.
Yeah,
I think. And the actor who plays Theo he's a charming guy. He's a very funny guy. Does a lot of comedic roles. And in just a very little screen time, he makes us kind of like him. He makes us think he's a fun guy.
So the Agatha Christie comes and picks them up. Admiral Souther is on the ship, and so they bring on Courtyard, and they get this message from Admiral Nguyen. And basically, Admiral Nguyen says to him, "Do you got the prisoner? Okay, don't you fucking talk to them, and I'm coming on board the ship." So that's really suspicious. So he comes aboard the ship, and Nguyen's like the fleet admiral, right?
Yeah, he took Souther's position when Souther stepped down.
Right, so he's like, he's
the boss of bosses.
The boss of bosses, and it's strange that he would be coming aboard this ship and doing the interrogation himself. That's really, really strange. So Souther, being a sharp guy, automatically is kind of like, what the hell's going on? So he comes in, he's like, I'm going to go question Courtyard. Souther comes, and Courtyard basically, explains what happened. Avasarala is dead, and nobody believes him. But Nguyen tells Souther that Avasarala is a spy, that she's working with Jules Pierre Mao, and we got to get rid of her. Or basically, we got to catch her. So Souther knows at that moment that this is bullshit, because I know Avasarala, and she might be a lot of things, but she is not a spy. She is not a traitor. She is a patriot, and she would die for Earth. So then it's a really cool moments of Power going out, him going to Courtyard to get the real story. Courtyard comes clean. Admiral Nguyen knows something up. He goes to show up, but he just misses him by a hair. But he still suspects enough, and he ends up taking over the ship at the end. Now, is Nguyen on board? Does he know the true story? Is he on board with Wright? Does he know the full?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes, and this will become more clear as the episodes go on, it becomes very clear over the next few episodes that Nguyen is part of Wright's cabal that's running this secret program. Yeah, because it'll become clear in later episodes that Nguyen knows about the protomolecule thing on Io. He knows about the hybrid soldiers. So he's in the know.
Okay. All right. So he's in the know.
He's protecting Wright's secrets at this point.
So he takes over the ship, and now Souther has an interesting predicament, because now he knows the truth, and we know he's a moral man, and we know that he's going to do the right thing. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the next episode.
Yeah, and we got all the pieces are in place, because I think episodes 5 and 6 of this season are two of my favorite episodes in the show, and we're getting all the pieces in place for those two big, huge episodes.
5 and 6?
Yeah.
Those are your favorite of the whole show?
Two of my favorite. If I had a top 10 list, they would be on my top 10 list.
So it's not like kids, like you can't pick your favorites, like you clearly know who your favorites are.
Well, my favorites are all the ones I wrote.
So in honor of poor Theo passing away, and it made me a little sad, I thought that it'd be interesting to list our top 5 saddest death scenes in movies. And I think this is interesting because it's highly personal, right?
Yeah.
And it really strikes you when it really moved you, and where were you in your life, and how old were you? Because you pretty much died inside when you were 12, right? So
around there, yeah.
So you haven't had like a true, authentic emotion since you were 12. So I'm sure all of your movies came before you were 12.
I bet they all did, yeah.
So I'll list out the initial pool, and then you can add the ones that I left out. And Clint, feel free to jump in there too, buddy. Oh, but in honor of Clint, I'm going to start this off, because you know how Clint is always about his Harry Potter and always correcting us because we didn't do Harry Potter. But okay, Clint.
I don't give a fuck about Harry Potter.
Okay, Clint.
Clint is an obsessive Harry Potter fan.
That's all.
Like it's a little creepy that he's that into a kid's show.
It's embarrassing. Like every time we do a list, he's like, "What about Harry Potter?" Okay, so Dumbledore dying in whatever Harry Potter that was. Jack in Brokeback Mountain. Romeo and Juliet and Romeo and Juliet. John Coffey and Green Mile.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that one got me. Thomas J. dying in My Girl. Bubba Gump dying in Forrest Gump. And Ginny dying in Forrest Gump. Dog and Marley and Me. My Sister's Keeper, Kate. A Walk to Remember, Jamie. Up, Ellie. Did you ever see Up?
Yep.
Shelby and Still Magnolias. Wilson and Castaway. Jackie and Stepmom. Bambi's Mom and Bambi. Sam and Ghost. Oh, Swayze. There was
but he's not really dead, because then he just turns into a ghost and hangs around with us.
I have a buddy. We both love Swayze. This was before he got sick or whatever, but we would always say, because we loved Roadhouse, if he was being whiny about, training or not wanting to do this or that, I'd be like, harness your Swayze, bro. Harness your Swayze. So he would, every now and then, he'll text me with like a picture of Swayze with his shirt off, and just like, that's it. Just like, harness your Swayze.
There was a rumor going around for a while that they were working on a Roadhouse remake.
Uh-huh.
And Dan Nowak would always just say, "No Swayze, no Wazy."
And ain't that the truth? I mean, Roadhouse was if there was any other actor in that, it's not going to be the same movie.
No,
that would be a fun like recasting. Like, who else would be? What movie would that be like if it was like Harrison Ford, or if it was or Tom Cruise, or
you want another dancer in there? It's a Channing Tatum role.
The Notebook, Allie and Noah, The Titanic, Jack and Titanic, Robbie and Atonement, Mufasa and The Lion King, Sebastian and Cruel Intentions, John Malkovich and Mice and Men. This is my number one.
That's Lenny, right? Isn't it
Lenny? Yeah, Lenny. I'll save that one till the end. Deborah Winger in Terms of Endearment, The Dog and Old Yeller, Hillary Whitney and Beaches, Wash and Serenity, Spock and Wrath of Khan, Logan and Logan, E.T. and E.T., and Mickey and Rocky. So
I'm glad E.T. made your list because as a little kid, that one really got me.
I'm going to tell you a movie that it got me, and it's never got me. It was in the afternoon. It was on HBO, and I was sitting in a chair, and I was, it was like, I don't know how old I was, probably 7. A movie called The Champ came on TV with Jon Voight and Ricky Schroeder.
Oh, yeah. I know that movie.
You seen this movie?
Yeah.
So basically, Jon Voight plays the father of Ricky Schroeder, and at a moment he had real potential as a heavyweight fighter, but he struggled with alcohol, and he ended up drinking all his fighting chances away to the point where he was living in horse stables with his son. And the role between the two was reversed, where the son was basically like the father figure to he couldn't stop gambling, he couldn't stop drinking, he was a slave to this, but he desperately loved his son and his son loved him. And what's so beautiful about the story is that Ricky Schroeder's character adored his father. He loved him despite all his flaws and was his biggest fan and always there supporting him. He called him the champ, and he was so proud of his father's career. So the mother comes back in the picture. She married into money, and Jon Voight's character realized that he couldn't give Ricky the life that he could get with her, but Ricky loved his father. He didn't want anything to do. He didn't want to leave or anything like that. So Jon Voight decided for the love of his son that he was going to come back one last time and fight and get his life together and train and do it. So they had this, and his son basically was with him every step of the way, and they had this amazing like training montage where he's with his son and he's not drinking, he's doing the right thing because he loves his son so much. And then he gets in the ring and he fights the fight of his lifetime, and the son's in the corner, and he gives his heart and soul, he gives it everything is the match. He ends up winning, and now he's actually at a point where he could do something again, but the damage that he took on by winning in the training room as he's walking back, and everybody's just so elated, and you're watching, and you're like, yeah, champ, you're the fucking champ, you did it. And he's walking back to his dressing room, and he collapses, and they lay him on the table, and he dies from the abuse that he took in the ring. And Ricky Schroeder is like, champ, wake up, champ, it can't be. And the trainers and all these old hardened boxing guys that make their whole living, they're crying, and Ricky's fighting, wake up, champ, wake up. Oh my God, I'm watching this scene. I'm watching this as a kid, and it was just an afternoon. I saw it, and it fucking broke me, dude. I have never been broken like that by a movie. And, I mean, that's my number one. I have never been affected like that from a movie ever.
We don't need to get into our family stuff, but, if you have a complex relationship with your father, which I know both of us did, that movie's aimed at you, right? It's aimed right at you. Like, you could not make a movie more targeted to all of the conflict in your soul, right?
Tight. You know what's so obvious is I didn't even connect those dots. I literally did not connect. And I'm like, why did that movie fuck me up so much? What do you think, kid? Yeah. Wow. So that movie's definitely my number one.
I should be charging like $275 an hour for my
you and our 4 fans for letting us do this.
For my psychiatric services.
Yeah, and also like for them listening to us, like this is our moment, to really just vent about things that are hurtful to us. So Champ's my number one. Tell me about your ET experience.
So I was a nerdy kid. I was a sci-fi kid. ET came out, of course. I was there watching ET with everybody else in America. And the scene where E.T. dies, like, you don't expect that as a kid. Like, you don't see that coming. By the way, spoiler alert for anybody listening, E.T. dies. But because he's like a blatant Christ figure, he rises from the dead after 3 days. But yeah, when he dies, like, and he's laying there and he's all gray because, like, I mean, that messed me up as a kid. I didn't think that could be true. Yeah.
And he was so sweet even after it was, and he was so empathetic that he could feel the feelings. Yeah. That's a good one.
Well, and I'll tell you another one that got to me. I saw this when I was very young, and I probably get a lot of the details of the movie wrong, but I was probably like 7 or 8, maybe a little older, maybe like 9 or 10. But I was watching like a Saturday afternoon movie, and it was The Sand Pebbles. Do you remember The Sand Pebbles?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so The Sand Pebbles, it's Steve McQueen as a merchant marine in, I think it's like World War I or II. I don't remember which one. And he's the guy who's like all about himself. He's all about protecting number one. Mm-hmm. And then he winds up.
So he's you.
He's me. He winds up like in a situation where he feels like he needs to protect this woman and her kid. And so he goes to fight with these guys, and he's kicking ass. Like he's got like a BAR, and he's like fucking dudes up, and he's winning this fight. And he needs to get away because he's already rescued the people. So he needs to get away, and he's like doing a fighting retreat away. And at one point he sits, it's like these like, my memory of this is probably wrong, but he sits down, he's in a horse stable, and he's got his back to the wall of the stable, and he's like messing with his gun. And then you just see 3 bullets come through the wall of the stable, and one goes right through the middle of him. And you just see him look down at it, like this hole right in the middle of his chest. And he just looks so pissed off. Like, I almost got out of here. I almost made it. And some motherfucker just shot me through the wall of the stable. And then he just falls over. And that messed me up, because what it did is, like, at that point, I had never thought about how fragile we are, and how no matter how kick-ass you are, your life can turn on a dime. Like, it doesn't even have to be epic. It doesn't have to be cinematic. You could just be walking down the street and a bullet can just fly out and hit you, and then that's it. And you just fall over dead, right? That changed my headspace when I was a kid watching that movie. So that was one of those.
Damn, I gotta see that. I can't believe there's a Steve McQueen movie out there I didn't see.
Well, that's one of them.
Okay, so The Champ, Sand Pebbles, E.T. should go on there. You know, when Mickey dies in Rocky, that shook me up. And he says, "I love you, son. I love you. I love you. I love you." And then he's dying in Rocky. That was a good one.
They had to come up with a new person to die every Rocky.
Yeah.
like you did not want to be hanging out with Rocky, because somebody was going to die in every Rocky.
I can't believe, I actually think Mickey rates, but I forgot about when Apollo Creed dies.
Yep.
That shook me up too. And you remember when he's in the car and he's like, "There's no easy way home." He's fucking shifting gears, bah, bah, and he's having flashbacks of him and Carl Weathers running on the beach. And yeah, ooh, that was a good one. Dude, if I ever want to like really accomplish, like if I want to get fired the fuck up, if we're getting attacked by aliens and we gotta rise up and fight out of it, all you need is the Rocky IV soundtrack. There's nothing that motivates you like the Rocky IV soundtrack. That gets you going, man. You wanna run snow mountains and okay, and then one that got me is a Terms of Endearment too. That was a sad one. When Deborah Winger dies in Terms of Endearment.
Talking about Deborah Winger in Officer and
Officer Gentleman.
Yeah, when his buddy kills himself.
Yes.
That's so shocking, man.
What happened to that actor? I don't ever see him anymore. I remember him in Major League 2.
Isn't he also the guy who was the dad in Firestarter?
Yes, he had a moment in the 80s.
Well, he's the other. So there's a Keith David and there's a David Keith, and he's the other one. He's the other David Keith David. And I can never keep track. I can never keep straight which is which.
Oh, Spock and Wrath of Khan. That was. I mean, even though I wasn't emotional because I saw it. I saw it for this podcast, so I didn't really get wrapped up. But I know that was a big one for a lot of people.
It was. I think it was. I mean, it was. It's not one of my top 5, but it was a big moment when he dies, because if you had watched all of the original show, you've seen 100 episodes of that guy, or 70 some episodes of that guy.
So we got The Champ, Sand Pebbles, E.T., Mickey. We should let Clint, what movie made you the saddest? What movie moment made you the saddest?
Mine are not as tough as you guys. It's not The Champ, and like,
I know yours is Dumbledore off Harry Potter.
No, it's not Dumbledore. No, if you want to do a boxing one, Hilary Swank and $1 Million Baby is brutal.
Oh, that one is pretty brutal.
Did you cry? Yeah. You had to have cried.
I think I probably did. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a little soft boy. So Artax and Neverending Story. I think that got me as a kid.
Oh God, that's a good one.
The horse, right?
Yeah, and he's like, no, and he can't pull him out of the thing. He's like, "You're thinking sad thoughts. You're being sad. Get out of there."
And I know for a fact that because I watched it in school, that I cried. We watched Dead Poet Society in class, and when the Robert Sean Leonard character kills himself. That definitely.
Yeah.
So you cried in front of your entire class?
Thank God the room was dark, Ty. Thank you.
But that does remind me, talking about that, another one that really hit me hard as a kid. So I was a huge, obviously sci-fi fan, but when the first time I saw The Road Warrior, one of my favorite movies of all time, I hadn't seen a lot of movies like that before. And when the warrior woman gets killed, the the cool chick with like the football pads on. Who
Oh
kinda,
yeah.
She and Mel Gibson have a little bit of a thing. There's a little sexual tension there, and she just seems so badass.
Yeah.
And then when that car just drives by and shoots her in the stomach with like crossbow bolts, and she falls off.
Yeah.
That was brutal. Like I did not see that coming. I was that one messed me up. I just assumed she would live. She was so cool, and she was like the female lead, and I'm like, of course she'll live.
But one of the things that really moved me, which wouldn't typically move me because he was the film's antagonist, but he was so charismatic, and he was, it really broke my heart when he died. It was when Hans Gruber died, Die Hard.
Yeah,
that was
eat shit, Wes.
That was really heartbreaking for me. Okay, we'll give number 5 the old Clinty Poo. So which one is it? Is it the white horse in the mud?
It's Dead Poet Society for me. Although if I'm gonna throw in one more super soft choice, it might not count because it's animation. But when Bing Bong, the imaginary friend in Inside Out, dies, it's so
oh
sad.
My god, dude, it's so sad,
right?
Holy shit! I saw that when I was in my fucking 40s. And I was devastated when Bing Bong dies.
What? Tell me the story.
You've never seen Inside Out?
No,
Wes?
I know of it. I know it's like a girl that was like struggling with mental health.
It's one of my favorite Pixar movies, and it is incredibly well done for how the human brain actually works. It's like watching a neuroscience lesson in the form of a heartwarming, beautiful cartoon. Right. It's amazing. You have to watch it.
I've heard it. I've heard that over and over. I remember trying to put it on for my kids one night, and they were in Beastmaster mode, so I had to go to Beastmaster.
Dude, just watch it for yourself.
All right, I will.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, so Bing Bong for number 5.
Yeah, I'll stand by that. It's so sad.
Okay,
Bing Bong is pretty good. Like if something touches me. Other than that dude that hides out in the rest stop bathroom, but when other things touch me,
see bad.
At the age that I am now, it has to be powerful because I can watch like a school bus full of orphans and nuns crash off a cliff, and I'm just laughing. I don't care. But Bing Bong, man, Bing Bong got me.
Laughing's a strong choice, guy. You might need to talk to somebody, dude. I mean, not crying is one thing, but laughing.
Well, I mean, it's just, orphans, nobody cares about orphans, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're orphans.
And nuns don't have any loved ones. It's a victimless crime.
No, that's right.
And, they're going to be reconnected to their ultimate loved one.
That's right. They if you're a nun, you instantly go to heaven. So, there's no tragedy there.
Well, listen, guys, this has been a lot of fun. And thank you for listening to us. And we appreciate you. And we're glad you're there. And we couldn't do this without you. And thank you. Please support us, like and subscribe.
Yeah, we do appreciate you guys. And we got a lot of plans for the future, a lot of things that we're working on. Unfortunately, Wes and I are the 2 dumbest people on the planet. We're incredibly disorganized. And
our producer's the 3rd dumbest. That's the blind leading the blind over here.
Bronze medal.
If it wasn't for Wes's wife, Jen, pushing us to get things done, I don't think anything would ever get done. So thank God for Jen. But we will get a few of these things done. So we got some stuff we're going to be announcing in the near future for you guys. And
we're going to be doing, special fun episodes and certain things to do. We've been having such a good time doing this, and it's been a great opportunity for us 3 to hang out. We all live in different states. So there's going to be a lot of cool, fun stuff. But yeah, so thank you for hanging out. This has been a great episode, and we will see you guys soon.
And please look forward to Clint's 47-hour Harry Potter retrospective, which we will be doing on the podcast.
Right. No, he's just going to free flow. He's just going to talk off the top of his head for 40 hours about
Harry Potter. So look forward to that one. That's going to be a good one.
Hey, did you catch when I was trying to say retrospective of The Simpsons and I said retroactive?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying not to call you out every time.
All right. Well, hopefully Joseph will cut that out. But
now we're keeping that one.
Guys, this was fun. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.